Good evening and welcome to the Pascack Valley Regional High School District Board of Education meeting this July 16th, 2025. Mrs. Kirk? That was me. Mrs. Kirk, roll call, please.
Ms. Calderon. Ms. Guzman.
Here.
Mrs. Wong. Ms. Keller.
Here.
Mrs. Martin.
Here.
Mr. Stankus.
Here.
Mr. Weaver.
Here.
Ms. Steffens. Mrs. Varghese.
Here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by mailing copies of said notice to the record, filing copies of said notice with the municipal clerks of Hillsdale, Montvale, Rivervale, and Woodcliff Lake, and publishing said notice in the record on July 2nd, 2025. First, we will have the interim superintendent's report by Mr. Phillips.
Thank you. I first want to welcome two people in their new roles, Cindy Kirk as our business administrator and board secretary at our first meeting, and Dr. Mark Russo as the supervisor of curriculum, instruction, and assessment. We will be hearing from him later as he's giving a presentation tonight. I want to congratulate the graduates and wish them the best in their endeavors, and I want to thank the administrative staff for conducting a very successful graduation ceremony. I know both schools were watching the weather very closely that day, and we were able to get them in, so thank you very much. I'd like to inform everyone that we had 74 of our students across our district qualify for the New Jersey Department of Education Seal of Biliteracy and Global Seal of Biliteracy. So congratulations to those 74 students and their teachers. It's quite an honor. We have a MacBook distribution coming up for our students. I know our students are eager to get their hands on the new MacBooks. We are expecting that to start the week of July 21st. It's about a week earlier than we anticipated. We're going to start with the seniors, so just make sure when you get that email that you complete your forms and get those submitted so there's no holdup in getting your MacBook. Typically during the summer, we're spending a lot of time preparing for the opening of the school year. That includes hiring and facilities and preparing the buildings. Just to give you some updates on what we've done, we have two new supervisors that we've hired. The first is Dr. Jessica Nuzzi, and she'll be our mathematics supervisor, and we approved her at our last board meeting, but tonight we're also approving Kiara Kupiak, who's going to be our supervisor of world language, ESL, music and family and consumer science. So congratulations, she's in the audience today. During the summer months, a lot of districts are struggling really to fill the open positions. We are very fortunate that all our instructional positions are filled for the opening of the school year. We do have a few positions that are open, but those are leave positions that are happening later in the school year. So we're ready to start the school year as far as our teachers being in place in the classroom. Facility-wise, we have a lot going on, as you can imagine. Park Academy, which had been housed at, in one of our elementary districts, has moved into Emerson, so we're working on getting that location up and running for the September. We took bids on and are looking to approve those bids tonight on PV's auditorium and on the milestone renovation program. At Pascack Valley, we are continuing to work on cafeteria upgrades on the HVAC. We are finally starting kitchen repairs after getting everything approved by the inspectors, insurance companies, and so forth. So we are able to start those repairs, and the kitchen will be reopened come September. And the back parking lot has a much needed resurfacing being completed. I believe they're lining the parking lot at this time. And here at Hills, well, the roof projects are finishing up, and they are beginning the field lighting replacement. And lastly, we are working on this time a lot of reviewing our procedures and our policies. And what's nice is between Cindy, myself, and Mark being in new positions and having fresh set of eyes, we're able to look at things a little bit differently and hopefully make things a little bit more efficient in the district. So we're taking a hard look at how we are doing things internally. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. We appreciate that. Next, we have the minutes for the June 9th, 2025 meeting. Roll call, please, Mrs. Kirk.
Ms. Guzman?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Keller?
Yes.
Mrs. Martin?
Yes.
Oh, did I not do a motion?
We didn't do a motion yet.
So sorry, everyone. It is summer and miss one meeting, and this is what happens. You forget everything. I would like a motion, please.
So moved. Second.
Okay. Now roll call, please, Mrs. Kirk.
Sure. Ms. Guzman?
Yes.
Ms. Keller?
Yes.
Mrs. Martin?
Still yes.
Mr. Stankus?
Yes.
Mr. Weaver?
Abstain?
Mrs. Varghese?
Abstain. Next, we have the presentation by Dr. Mark Russo for the NJGPA scores. Dr. Russo?
Thank you to Mr. Phillips and the Board of Education for having me tonight. Tonight, I'll be sharing results from the spring administration of the NJGPA in order to remain in compliance with state reporting requirements. We'll go into more detail later this summer or early fall with a more comprehensive testing presentation, which is what you're used to when we share results from all of the tests that we've administered. And that will include additional standardized test results and our plans moving forward. But for tonight, we're going to focus on the NJGPA. So the New Jersey Graduation Proficiency Assessment was administered in March to all 11th graders. The NJGPA is designed to measure the extent to which students are graduation ready in ELA and mathematics. The ELA component is aligned to the grade 10 standards, while the mathematics component is aligned to Algebra 1 and geometry standards. The NJGPA has been a graduation requirement for the last 3 graduating classes, and we expect the same, but are still waiting to get official guidance for the class of 2026 and beyond. Students who take but do not meet the minimum required score, which has been a 725, on each component of the assessment will have the opportunity to receive additional supports and may take the following steps. They can retake either component of the NJGPA in the fall. They can meet a designated cut score from a menu of substitute assessments, which in the past have been PSAT, SAT, ACT, Accuplacer, or complete a portfolio appeal. Before sharing our data, I'd like to thank our teachers for their time and expertise working with our students, their commitment to their craft, and to ensuring that our students are well positioned to be successful on this assessment and other assessments enable us to continue performing well. Now to share the data. In mathematics, 81.7% of students at Pascack Hills met the graduation ready cutoff, which is consistent with students' performance in the past and continues to be well above state averages. Please note on this slide the performance of various student subgroups, including males and females, students who identify as white, Asian, and Hispanic or Latino, and students with disabilities. Please note that we only report on subgroups of 10 or more students to protect students' anonymity, and thus we do not include in this presentation multi-language learners, students who are economically disadvantaged, and students from other racial or ethnic groups. I'd like to include a few notes or observations on our subgroups. Our subgroups performed roughly in line with their performance in previous years, with some small variations, including a dip in the performance of our Hispanic Latino students, which we will continue to monitor. Some groups have fewer students than others, as a second observation, and numbers for the groups with the fewest students are subject to higher volatility from year to year, as a note. And third, when analyzing our data and planning for subsequent years, we take note not only of our headline numbers, but our subgroup performance as well. We're constantly looking for ways to support all of our students and groups of students in helping them to become proficient in state standards. At Pascack Valley, 88.4% of students met the graduation ready cutoff in mathematics, which is similarly consistent with students' performance in the past and is also well above state averages. You can see that our subgroups performed roughly in line with their performance in previous years, except at PV we saw a gain from our Hispanic Latino students and students with disabilities. We will continue to track students' performance on both sides to see if these are yearly fluctuations, or in PV's case, if we're making positive trends that can be sustained and will enable us to share practices across the district. I'll be working closely with our new math supervisor, Dr. Nutzi, to analyze these data and plan for this year and beyond, and we'll have a more thorough report the next time we meet. As in the past, we'll identify relative strengths and weaknesses as we refine our instruction. We'll spiral in older concepts and skills and plan in review opportunities, and we'll continue investing in additional support for students through the Math Center. I'd like to thank the board for their continued support of this work as we look to leverage our teachers' time and expertise to support our students. Moving on to ELA, at Pascack Hills, 90.6% of students met the graduation ready cutoff, which is consistent with students' performance in the past and is above state averages. Our subgroups performed roughly in line with their performance in previous years, though we will monitor the slight dip in performance specifically for males, Asian students, and students with disabilities. Again, we will track students' performance to see if these are yearly fluctuations or something that needs further addressing. At Pascack Valley, 91.4% of students met the graduation ready cutoff in ELA, which is, again, consistent with students' performance in the past and is above state averages. And you can see the subgroups performed roughly in line with their performance in previous years. In terms of ELA, I will work closely with Ms. Matisich to understand these data with the intention of continuing current best practices, including the workshop model, writing center, and direct reading comprehension instruction, and expanding our work with independent reading and writing instruction. I'll be meeting with supervisors of instruction throughout the summer and throughout the school year to better understand these data and respond accordingly. As I mentioned previously, we'll come back to the board in the coming months with a more comprehensive presentation of our data, and we'll touch on NJSLA, APs, and other standardized tests at that time. I'd like to thank the board once again for their support and for your continued investments, specifically in supports like the Math Center and the Writing Center. Please let me know if you have any questions that I can answer now, or I'd be happy to engage in further data analysis and get back to you if you have any larger questions.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you for doing this. Very nice. Can you give me some information on the criteria for why a student is considered one with a disability? Is it because they're on an IEP, a 504, or is it both?
Either or
A
both.
bunch of other, okay.
Yep, so students with disabilities are classified in this context as student with an IEP or a 504, or in some cases, both.
Got it, thank you.
Yep.
Just two quick questions.
Sure.
What would be your reference dips and gains? What would be considered a statistically significant dip or gain?
So statistically significant is tricky. We have all the data, We have every student who performed, in each one of these years. So I wouldn't use the phrase statistically significant. I would say whether something is significant or not, and that unfortunately is subjective. It's difficult to determine, as I mentioned, particularly with our subgroups, whether a dip or an increase in performance is due to just a small number of students. I like to see trends over time. But if there's a dip that's 10, 15, 20 points, that is something that we note immediately. And certainly if a dip continues or growth continues, we want to see what's going on so we can share or adjust as needed.
And then kind of piggybacking on Ms. Guzman's question, do you have the data on just general education students? I know you said MLs weren't included, so are we able to see just what our general education students are, what percentages they're performing?
So I can get that information and share that with you next time.
Great, thank you.
Yep,
I have a question.
of course.
So it's really encouraging to see the math numbers at Valley, like why they jumped. Like, that's so interesting, and I can't wait to see, like, to hear what you guys have sort of uncovered as to why.
Yes.
But would moving geometry first have anything to do with that?
So that's a great question. And as the math supervisor 2 weeks ago, I have a little bit more insight into mathematics than ELA. I can say that we have been doing a lot of work to continue our rigorous instruction while also supporting students and preparing them for assessments. So there's a lot of work that's been going into preparation for these assessments. Geometry First is a change that we made, and I certainly believe in, but that has taken place in parallel to additional spiraling and review for the NJGPA. So what we'll talk about the next time we meet is NJSLA, which for the first time, we'll be able to look at sophomores taking Algebra 1. So that's going to be a little bit of a clearer picture as to whether, at least with the first cohort of students, there was an adjustment based on Geometry First. It's a little bit clearer to measure. The NJGPA is a tricky test because Algebra 1 and Geometry are both there. Yes, the order has switched. But it's difficult to find an impact. And the first cohort that actually experienced the Geometry First switch are rising juniors.
Got it, I see.
So I should have answered that first. But we need a little bit of time to ascertain. But I just wanted to share that, we do a lot of things at once to try and support students. We don't control things. So there's a lot of work we've been doing. Is Geometry First potentially going to be an impact? I think we'll see over the next couple years.
Because I'd love to see, because we see that at Valley, it would be great to see if that's reproducible for Hills.
Yes.
And then on a more global level, whether it's reproducible for, ELA and math are totally different, but like the other subjects, to see whatever was changed or whatever benefited the students, if that's, able to be transferred over to other subjects. That'd be great to know.
Of course. And particularly when I saw the Valley math numbers, I got a little bit giddy thinking about it. But I also want to be careful because there was a little bit of a dip at Hills, but that just could be yearly fluctuation and it could be nothing. So seeing another year or two, I think, will be helpful. But coordinating teachers from both schools as we do this work, I think, is important.
You just showed your math supervisor background by saying you get giddy about numbers. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Next, we have comments from the public. Citizens are invited to make comments regarding agenda items and are limited to 3 minutes. According to the Pascack Valley Regional High School District Board of Education, policy number 0167, persons wishing to speak must, upon being recognized, rise, sign in, and state their name, town of residence, and which agenda item they are referencing. Would anyone like to speak? Okay, seeing no hands. Next, we have policy, for which we have 3 consent agenda items. Can I get a motion, please? Second?
Second.
Roll call, please, Mrs. Kirk? Oh, sorry, any discussion? I'm telling you, one day, and I don't know what's happening here. Any discussion? Okay, no discussion. Roll call, please, Mrs. Kirk.
Ms. Guzman?
Yes?
Ms. Keller?
Yes.
Mrs. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Stankus?
Yes.
Mr. Weaver?
Yes to 1 and 2, abstain 3.
Mrs. Varghese?
Yes. Next, we have education, for which we have 4 consent agenda items. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please, Mrs. Kirk?
Ms. Guzman?
Yes.
Ms. Keller?
Yes.
Mrs. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Stankus?
Yes.
Mr. Weaver?
Yes.
Mrs. Varghese?
Yes. Next, we have human resources, for which we have 19 consent agenda items. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Roll call, please, Mrs. Kirk?
Wait, you said 19?
Yeah, so the supplemental
Is
is
the supplemental is the
19.
one? Right,
Yep.
perfect. Yep, great.
Ms. Guzman?
Yes.
Ms. Keller?
Yes.
Mrs. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Stankus?
Yes.
Mr. Weaver?
Yes.
Mrs. Varghese?
Yes. Next, we have finance, for which we have 38 consent agenda items. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
So I just have a question on 7, and then I guess a comment related to, is that donation for a specific sport, or is it just for uniforms in general at Hills?
I'm not sure if it's for a specific sport, but I can definitely find out for you.
Okay, and then just, I guess, related to uniforms, since it's on here for Pascack Hills, some feedback we had gotten, or at least I know I've been hearing from students at Hills, when we transitioned mascots, was to just the process of how we went about putting certain wording on certain uniforms at one school versus the other. I know Hills uniforms got kind of plastered with Broncos, whereas Valley uniforms just went with Valley with no Panthers on it. So I don't know when we're coming up on a cycle to start buying new uniforms, but when we do come up on that cycle, just hoping that student athletes and coaches can be a part of that process for deciding what's going to be on the uniforms. Because I think my understanding was when it was just ordered and we moved forward on without much input from stakeholders. So one, I'd be interested in, when do we start the cycle of ordering uniforms again? And then 2, can we make sure that stakeholders have a say in what's going to be on those uniforms at both schools?
So, to clarify what you're saying, are you saying like across both schools, it should be Hills, Valley, or Broncos, Panthers?
I would leave that up to the students and the coaches. I think my understanding was when administration was changing over at the time, a lot of orders were made without much input, and there wasn't alignment between both schools and how we went about it. So I think uniforms have like a 3-year shelf life before we start ordering new, and we're probably up against that. So just as we get into that new cycle, just I guess my one request based off of some things I've heard from students is just making sure that they have at least a say in what's going to be on the jerseys that they're wearing. Thanks. All right.
Roll call, please, Mrs. Kirk?
Ms. Guzman?
Yes.
Ms. Keller?
Yes.
Mrs. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Stankus?
Yes.
Mr. Weaver?
Yes.
Mrs. Varghese?
Yes. Next, we have old business. Any discussion? New business.
The meeting's not over yet, but I would just like to congratulate Ms. Kirk on a fantastically run first meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Weaver.
I concur. Next, we have comments from the public. Citizens are invited to make comments and are limited to 3 minutes. According to the Pascack Valley Regional High School District Board of Education Policy 0167, persons wishing to speak must, upon being recognized, rise, sign in, and state their name and town of residence. Would anyone like to speak? Okay. Next, we have a motion to enter into executive session.
So moved.
So, second.
And I think we will not be taking any action after the meeting, so other than the executive session, we are adjourned.